Howdy, 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 everybody.
Hey, what's up?
That's the link to the video we're going to cover. It is Behind the Bastards. Let's see, what's the full title of it? How the U.S. government used aliens to destroy a man's mind. So that's what we're going to cover today, part 2. That we started on all the way back on the 1st, believe it or not. So I think I shared it out pretty well. What's up, Spider Dog? Mrs. Mech Cow. I didn't see who was first. What's up, Nomad? I just now saw the new thumbnail. I'll have to switch it. Oh, it's Mrs. Mech Cow and Joey Simpson. Peace. Then Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Angel.
Thank you.
So, all right. Y'all ready to get started to see how this concludes with them breaking a man's mind to hide secret government programs? Did it? That's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. I think everybody is. I think almost everybody's a member, huh?
Yeah.
Mike D hooked us up last night. All right,
Yeah.
here we go. Oh, Angel, if you have a question, just let me,
All right.
speak up or comment.
Oh man, welcome back to Behind the Bastards, all of you beautiful people.
Could y'all hear it?
The video's stuttering a little bit. It maybe turn the quality of the video down just a little bit. Because it's on the full HD right now.
All of you ugly people, you know?
Oh, you know what?
Do you see the little cogwheel that says HD? You could turn it down one, and then it'll probably play a little better. With the red HD.
Oh.
Go to quality. Yeah, the bottom one. Turn it down to like 720 and it'll probably play a little better.
And I'm still, see if you can hear it.
Yeah, I could hear it.
I can't for some reason.
Oh.
Hang on
okay.
1 second.
Excuse
me. You know.
Shitty showing down.
And all. Yeah. Let's see. Sound mixer. Here we go. Hey, Oklahoma Outlaw.
Well, all people are beautiful, except for I just kind of said that that they're not. That was
There's
mean
inside
of me.
and outside beauty, you know.
No, there's only one kind. There's only one kind. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to say which kind of beauty.
Yeah,
but there's only one
stuttering.
kind.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's elbows.
Did what?
That fixed the stuttering of the video. Just turning the quality down a little. So it's good now.
Thank you. Thank you. What's up, Joe Cool? All right. Here we go. Hey, Jicky, how are you? Your avatar has messed me up without the black cat. So
Oh man, welcome back to Behind the Bastards, all of you beautiful people, and also all of you ugly people. You know, all people are beautiful, except for I just kind of said that I didn't, that they're not. That was
There's
mean of
inside
me.
and outside beauty. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
We're
No, there's
all-
only one kind. There's only one
Oh,
kind. I'm not going to
okay.
say what it is. I'm not going to say which kind of beauty, but there's only one kind.
That's
you know?
fair.
Yeah, it's elbows.
Elbow guy.
I'm an elbow guy. I'm an elbow guy. Yeah, I'm starting the wiki feed of elbows. It's just a bunch of like really blurry cropped photos of like elbows of different celebrities. Oh my god.
Wow. Do you know there's no nerve endings in your elbow skin?
That's the hottest thing about it.
Yeah,
to me,
I know.
As an elbow guy.
I had a friend in my comparative religions class that discovered weed and would make everybody bite his elbows at the beginning of every class. And
Oh,
be like,
that's a pervert. That's a pervert.
oh, yeah.
That's an elbow pervert right there.
Yes, currently he's a born again meteorologist in North Carolina. So
Sure,
yes,
yeah.
that sounds about right. We've known people like that, Angel, in growing up.
Yeah, I stuck a safety pin through my elbow one time,
Yeah.
so that I could say that I had a pierced weenus.
Hey, Danny, how are you? Well, catch us later. Oh, I was tardy too. I've been hanging around you too much, so you know. But I mean, it was only about 8 minutes late or something that way.
Yeah.
that is a pervert.
No, I can see
Hardcore
why you'd
pervert.
be scared that God is angry at you if you're that kind of pervert, because he is.
Mhm.
But that makes it hotter for a lot of us. Brandy Posey, welcome back to the program. You want to plug anything at the top before we get too deep into elbows?
Yeah, of course. Before we get elbow deep into,
That's right.
into
That's right.
aliens.
Bowen. Bowen
yeah.
with Robert and Brandy.
Getting it down, baby. I run a comedy record label. It's called Burn This Records. We seek to create like equity between our artists in a way that most comedy labels don't. I have put out 17 albums last year. Was our first year. This year we have about 15. It's digital only, and everybody is
God, that's a lot
not
of
only
albums.
funny but a good person, which is a Venn diagram that I wish more people in comedy paid attention to.
Yes. Well, I think that's awesome. So
Thank
check
you.
that out, everybody. And let's get. Are you ready to get back into this story, into these aliens,
let's do
aliens
it.
and spooks?
Bow
All
deep
right.
in aliens. Let's go.
Yeah. Speaking of bows, Richard Doty probably doesn't have nice elbows. He's our Air Force Office of Special Investigations.
When you said
agent.
bows, I was like, are we talking for your hair? Are we talking?
Nope.
Are we talking speakers? Are we talking?
Natty bow.
There's so many bows. Does he have no bows? No partners. What are we talking about?
Yeah. You know what?
Different.
Speaking of bows, I will let people. This just yesterday. I wound up just because of it happened as I was driving, like responding to a 3-car crash, and there was a young woman in the middle car who was the only one who was hurt, and she was hurt because she had a beret in like the back of
That's
her
not
hair.
what it's got. A
and,
claw
like,
for
A claw.
it was the claw-shaped one. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
which is a no-go.
Anyway, don't
not
wear
wear
those in
those.
the car. It'll
Don't wear
fuck you
those
up.
in a car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do your hair. You can
She's
bring
okay,
your claw
but-
clip in the car, but do not wear it while you're in the car because it's just
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have
Yeah.
a friend that is her sister's an ER nurse, and when she gets in her car, her whole back seat is full of those claws because when she gets that in her car and she throws it, she just takes it out and throws it in the back seat because the number one thing that she sees in her ER room is that in women's skulls from car accidents. So
Thankfully, this lady seemed fine.
I
but
do like you saying barrette the way you said it.
Barrette.
You said it
Well,
like
okay.
so surgical.
I thought that's what it was called.
You're not wrong, but you're also wrong.
Anyway,
Yes.
don't wear those. And also, if you're ever in a car accident and your head is hurt in any way, shape, or form, go get checked out by a professional. Don't just assume it's okay. You don't want to wind up like that famous guy's wife.
No, you got
I
one
wasn't
brain, man.
Wasn't saying that to be flippant. It's a real problem.
Yes.
Go to the doctor. So let's talk about fucking UFOs and a guy who didn't go to the doctor maybe enough, or maybe went too much. I don't know. Richard Doty was born sometime around the immediate post-war period. He is, I haven't actually run into his exact, that said, I didn't like go super hardcore digging into it. His father and his uncle Edward were his chief influences growing up, and both were military men. This guy is kind of, an early, I think like mid-boomer or something like that. And his uncle Edward had been a career officer and meteorologist. In 1947, he'd been made chief of an Air Force weather research station working on something called the Atmospheric Divergence Project. Now, decades later, because Richard Doty is not just the guy who's going to.
So we see how these weather programs have been behind conspiracies for so many years. So his uncle was part of this weather divergence program, and we'll see what that was actually all about. But we let it drive conspiracies a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it's a weather balloon. So many things were weather balloons, Mrs. Metcalf. We like that one.
To spread a bunch of lies to Paul Benowitz that helps drive him mad. He also becomes like an alien influencer, claiming that like, oh no, I actually did also see real aliens, guys, and you can totally trust me. I know that like my whole thing is I lied to a guy about aliens for years, but also you can trust me when I tell you about aliens that I saw.
Yeah. I lied because I also tell the truth. That's how it works.
Exactly. Now that I'm out, you can trust me. So Richard Doty, the spook and liar kind of guy, has in kind of modern interviews tells viewers that the atmospheric divergence project his uncle worked on was an attempt to, quote, change or neutralize gravity around a rocket to aid space travel. Now,
so see, tall tales,
changing gravity.
Yeah. I mean, his job was to change stories and lie about top secret government weapons and reconnaissance programs that he probably wasn't read into. They just like, okay, this guy is gathering too much information. Remember, he needs to he needs to get people to look away and
draw the attention away from the real.
Yeah, and they got somebody gathering signals intelligence on and collecting information, and it's got them scared because they think the Russians can do it if he can.
I haven't found the exact details on the specific project his uncle worked on, but I don't think this is true. Because while I didn't find the reports on that project, I did spend way too much of my research time reading through an Air Force handbook on meteorological techniques, and atmospheric divergence impacts the growth of storm systems in a bunch of ways that are obviously relevant to an Air Force meteorologist and not at all involved with fucking up gravity for space travel, right? This sounds like a normal meteorologist thing to do. Richard is a tall tale spinner, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the issues with my sources, because I've got a bunch of articles in here that you can find, but there's also two books that I read for this. One is Saucered Spooks and Kooks by Adam Gorightly, and one is Project Beta by Greg Bishop. Both of them are very entertaining. I think Greg's book, Project Beta, is the better book. Both of these guys also believe in stuff I don't, but particularly Bishop. Well, I think because I've caught there's some stuff in Gorightly's book that I caught that's just not factually, just that he slipped up on. I think Bishop is more familiar with the subculture, but also Bishop definitely believes
Bishop's a fanboy of Doty, so I think that's what he's about to say, but.
Gives a bunch of shit I don't, and you can tell he kind of is excited at like talking with these spooks and spies, and I think he gives them a lot more credit than he ought to.
Never give spooks and spies any kind of credit ever. Believe me.
God, he's
it all goes to their head.
If they believe their own hype, absolutely.
Yeah.
Caught up in the romance of it all. Yeah.
I think he is, not in a way that I think makes his basic conclusions wrong or his book not worth reading. Again, I think it's actually quite worth reading. It's quite a good book, and I think he's a good writer. I'm not simpatico with him on all of the conclusions he comes to about these guys. I don't mean that as an insult to the man, because again, I liked his book a lot. But that is an issue when it comes to like trying to figure out shit here, right? And in Project Beta, Bishop does do about like the best of any of them at kind of questioning Doty by saying perhaps this had something to do with weather control, or maybe it was something more prosaic. And like it wasn't weather control or gravity. It's just studying how this thing that affects meteorological forecasts work. Very normal thing for a meteorologist to do. Anyway, Doty joined the Air Force as a young man, just like his pa and uncle, and per Bishop, he entered in 1968 as a combat security policeman. Doty would later claim he was, quote, tested and tracked throughout his career to become a base security guard and then a special agent.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to laugh about this for a moment? He was recruited and tracked to be a base security guard and then a special agent for OSI. That's not how any of that works. You just sign up. Just probably listening to 5 shows at once and remembering all of it. Exactly.
Right.
So there's this first line. Grifters in the UFO. Okay.
For AFOC, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Now, that's how Doty tells the story. And I think that's very silly because I'm not an expert on this, but I've known a number of people who were in different military intelligence roles. And I will tell you one thing that is very consistent. Base security guard is not a job that you are scouted for your entire career, right?
No.
Like, it's kind of a shit gig, actually.
Absolutely. Pulling over officers who want to be pull rank on you and tell you can't arrest them for DUIs, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that makes it difficult. I hate listening and trying to type on my phone.
Yeah, typing on the phone is hard.
I crossed some rails several times over the last week.
Yeah.
Like nobody likes base security. It's not really what most kids join wanting to do with their lives, right?
No. It's like a step above base janitor, but like also the same kind of.
Yeah.
And not to besmirch either job necessarily, but also like you're not
I'll besmirch Will.
security.
Yeah, those were the dumb things. Or they try to tell you what to do by using their spouse's rank. They think
They
that they
worse
carry
than
that with them.
Worse than trad wives.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My current boss, I think she was that way because she still she calls all of us by our last name, which is I find super degrading. But
Yeah.
it's just because I didn't even do that when I was in hardly. It was always the first name professional basis for the last 12 years. So oh yeah. Now I got that sorry. I'm gonna hit play on this. I gotta send my kid a text.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll smirch it some. I'm smirching a little here.
I'll let you just a scooch of smirch. We'll take it.
Yeah. And Doty really wants people to believe that he was like he was scouted by the Air Force because like we need a guy we can trust to do security for our very secret, very real alien projects. And like, wow, we noted from the beginning of his time in the Air Force that he had something special, right? And that's the way he talks about his background.
This is very observe and report, but with aliens. It feels
yes. And you know, AFOC is more prestigious than base security. He eventually does, you know, he's a special agent. He's a sergeant, but he's also a special agent for this. And that is like a more prestigious role, but also his job within AFOC isn't the most prestigious thing because other members of that agency are literally, this is like, the time that he's in is one of like the high points for like spy shit anywhere in the world, like history, right? Other guys in AFOC are locked in life and death spy battles with like fucking got some of the best spies on planet Earth, right? You know, you've got the foreign, you know, Russian and Chinese agents. Like there's some really interesting shit going on here. Doty's job during this like great international game is to lie to people who believe they'd been molested by Martians. So he doesn't have the sexiest job within this sort of field.
I just love the way he described that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
People that have had their experiences and close encounters.
All right, Peace Dynamo. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, and he wants to gas those people up, right?
Yeah.
What does that do?
What?
Very insulting. Giggity.
Giggity.
Right?
Not quite espionage with a capital E.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was definitely. I mean, some of the people who trained me were locked in that battle, right? Of East and West, you know, going across the checkpoint Charlie and not knowing if you were going to come back or your sources were going to get burned. And we found out later on we had so many traitors in our own intelligence agencies selling out agents that it was lucky that anybody came back.
James Bond, you know, there are some guys in AFOC doing some really like you talk about the ethics of it, but like interesting spy shit. I mean, it is interesting, but not in the same way.
I'd like to see his Bond movie, though. I would like
for
to
sure.
see.
Yes.
Yeah, this low rent Bond is definitely a movie that I'd be into.
Going to MUFON conferences and, you know, gassing everybody up like that. And he's still, I mean, is he still alive? He was still doing it. I used to get all the stuff and read about all the UFO stuff. So, oh yeah, the Mirage Men is a good one. I'll let this play a minute and I'll pull up the I'll share the link for that. Hey Cap.
Well, that's kind of the premise of the Slow Horses TV show, right? Which does have what's his name? Commissioner Gordon's in it, and he's great. The show. I have mixed opinions on it, but he's always a charm. The original commissioner, well, not the original, the one from the Nolan movies. I forget his name. Gary Oldman. So
that's
Doty
who I've always said you kind of
right
look like it's Gary
training,
Oldman.
And again, this is also bullshit. He was taken to a room and shown footage of UFOs, and like, I don't believe that if there are aliens that the government has evidence of, obviously there's some people that they let into that secret within military intelligence. It's not going to be anyone who just finished basic, because you know who can finish basic training? Almost anyone. Like that's part of the point.
Not Michael
I
Williams.
18-year-old without a front.
Twice.
Just about anyone can pass basic training. Michael William Kaiser.
Cannot.
Other than injuries, you know.
Yeah.
But shin splints and bee stings, or
Serious business.
yeah. Achieved consciousness. Not much. We're just getting into the start of Richard Doty's career and his lies, even about how that started. And we're not talking about aliens, as Todd likes to call them.
Aliens.
Aliens.
Until that is fully formed. You want
Yeah.
to see aliens right
Yeah.
now? Like, unless I want to
Look.
fuck with you specifically, maybe, but like not in like an official constructive capacity for sure.
Yeah. Hey, guy whose primary hobby is getting blackout drunk every single night of the week. Let's show you an alien video.
yeah, exactly. You know
Now-
all those push-ups you did? Guess what?
Yeah.
Here's also aliens. You passed the test.
Yeah. Now, this is generally described as a test, and I think that's how like Bishop describes it in his book, is that Doty was being tested to see or at least Doty claims he was being tested to see, if he could be trusted with more detailed info about extraterrestrials. So I guess there's a possibility that maybe something like this did happen, and it wasn't real aliens, but it was just like, let's show a bunch of guys alien footage and like see who leaks it, right? That they saw something, see who we can trust. Stuff like, I don't think even then, I kind of doubt it, because they weren't really doing that to guys who just finished basic. Shit like that is happening within different kind of intelligence agencies. And it's not just aliens. They lie about, they disinfo is given out to people during this period of time in different intel roles just to see if they can be trusted, right?
A PFC. I don't know how they got a hold of what they got a hold of. I mean, some of that came from high side, but for those of you who don't know that, so you got the internet, and we call that the nipper net in the military, and then you have the zipper net, which is secret internet, and then you have high side, which is top secret, and then the classifications beyond that, they're just add-on classifications, and you can get I would not call Robert Evans an armchair researcher. He's a pretty solid researcher. In my experience.
Right? Like that's a thing that happens. Doty also claims that he served as a guard at Area 51, where he saw a UFO.
Right.
Now, again, Area 51 is a real base. They are really doing experimental shit with planes there. This could be true. And in fact, the story he tells might be true, but not in a way he wants you to think, because he claims while he's there, he sees them wheeling out this huge black disc that's some sort of craft that they're trying to get into the atmosphere, that they like launch, and it doesn't look like anything he's ever seen. And his commanding officer takes him aside, right, because he sees Doty's fascinated in this. And here's the conversation that is related in the book Project Beta. Airman Doty, do you know what that craft was? Asked the officer. No, sir. That's what is generally known as a UFO, and it's not one of ours. It's on loan. Yes, sir. Someday, if you play your cards right, you will know a lot more. But for now, you are to tell no one about this, and you are not to discuss it with anyone. Is that clear? Doty never talked about it again. And first off, obviously he did, because you're telling us the story. So, like,
from reading it in a book, it's definitely been recounted several times.
But also, that could be basically true and have nothing to do with aliens. He could have been on guard duty, seen a weird craft that maybe like was a fucking French or Canadian thing that like we were doing tests on, right? So it's on loan, and his boss is just kind of like, hey, maybe if you play your cards right, we'll trust you with more stuff, right?
And that's true, because he could be guarding things that needed a top secret clearance, but he wasn't read on to the program. They're read-on programs, or special access programs, more technically, that if you don't have a need to know, you're not going to know what it is, and it would look weird.
You can't tell if the woman on the bottom is texting somebody or falling asleep.
She's always texting. She's the producer,
Oh,
co-owner
okay.
of Cool Zone Media with Robert. So very busy.
She's doing other stuff. She's the Scotto.
Well, I designed some things and did some things with some things. So I saw them. I don't think anybody, I mean, Assange executed. I don't know. And, you know, um, now leakers are a cornerstone of things being put out to the public that need to be. I mean, we would have never known about Watergate, right? We would have never known about the bombings and everything Kissinger did during the Vietnam War. So the Pentagon Papers, that's the word I was trying to get out of my face. The government did, but that's the risk you take when you're dealing in leaks. So the people in the government, sure. But I don't think, getting through the justice system and that happening is what I'm trying to get across. I agree, but somebody stole them that they want to. Yep. Doesn't give you deniability. That me and Shiz are not going to look good. Are going to look good? I mean, I look good every day. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't know if Doty actually gets much more trust, but this could be largely accurate, although I don't think that's likely. So that said, like, there's evidence he definitely does see experimental craft through his job for FOC later in his career, because he's working at bases where they're doing that. That doesn't mean that he's told what it all is, because they silo that info. Even if it's your job to stop people from finding out about these programs, you may not be told much about them because it's a need to know thing and you don't. Right? You need to stop people from filming the weird craft. You don't need to know how it works. You don't need to know what it is, right? Like,
No.
We even term it siloing. So even people read on to the program may not know all the specifics. You're siloed until it gets into the inner workings of it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't want curious people working on like lower levels of this stuff at all.
No,
like they're not.
no.
They want you to just come in and be like, my job is to do this, and then have blinders up to everything else.
I didn't see shit. This is why I've been saying this for years. The government should have all of its security done by street level drug dealers. You know, those guys can keep their fucking mouths.
That cracks me up every time. Mrs. Metcalf, on Ridden Hour, I looked up and read Rittenhouse. Then knowing you and you saying all heroes in my book, that kind of threw me for a loop when I thought that's what you said. A real opinion on Snowden. Well, he signed NDAs, but I'm glad he did what he did to get the information out there. He is a hero to the American people because the American people know what the government is doing to them. Should the American people have allowed the people to stay in power that agreed to let that happen? Absolutely not. But that what the Patriot Act did to people, even us, and if you think that that collection program didn't kick up, it only goes under names like Facebook, Google. Oops. Sorry, Google people.
Yeah.
But I mean the data centers that are being built and the $1 trillion going away from housing and commissaries and military vehicles to go to data centers for the military is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but that's how I feel about Snowden. The information needed to come out, and Snowden had the courage to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
what if it was a bandit? Beauty comes in every form.
By the
What?
way, it was a Chewbacca purse.
Yes.
They edited the stormtrooper out of the picture.
You want to skate? You want to hold hands while you do it? It's weird, bandit. What's up? All right, let's continue this before I get angry.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Ain't no
Yeah.
snitches.
Mhm. Exactly.
in the NSA.
Exactly. Area 51, all security provided by Coke dealers. Just don't give them any Coke. Then they talk about everything.
Yeah.
You got to keep them sober, otherwise it ends very badly.
Ooh, man, what a fun place. Just a bunch of
Yeah.
sober Coke dealers.
Yeah, a bunch of sober Coke dealers at Area 51. This is going to end well.
Mhm.
So there's evidence that a lot of, Doty is a credulous guy. He does come to, at least he will claim to believe in this. He might just be fucking with everybody. I don't really know. But a lot of guys in his kind of level in different intel agencies are believers themselves, right?
Okay.
So at any rate, Doty claims that his chief mentor in spy shit was a guy named Seeley Howard, a former insurance salesman. According to Doty, he gave him this sage advice early in his spook career. There are 3 sorts of people you will be dealing with. The first are the ones who will believe anything you say. The second are those who will, at least at first, refuse to believe you. The last is the group who won't believe you at first, but might be willing to be convinced. And what I find interesting about that is those last 2 groups are the same group of people.
Yes.
The people who don't believe you at first, but you can make them believe you. I don't see the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just one is just on a longer timeline and eventually,
Yes,
eventually.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So as soon as Paul Benowitz called the Air Force with results of his surveillance, they knew they might have a problem. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations very quickly became concerned that Paul Benowitz had stumbled onto a secret laser-based tracking system located in Kirtland. At least that's
Toker, I will say that there are things, because there are things that I know that I wish I didn't know. And there are things that really people certain programs need to be kept on the down low. There's stuff from the Revolutionary War that are still classified.
Wow.
To the extent of handling sources and methods. because it was so good. I'm sure you can find it printed before the classification systems existed, but really,
So there's a
really
lot of
golden.
things. There's
Go
things that people probably don't want to know, and
Yes.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, and then you just once you know it, you can't forget it. So
right.
no, it wouldn't. I guarantee you, it would not be. We would be plunged into chaos and
Anarchy.
fear. Yeah. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that's just from my experience. Again, it's anecdotal. Maybe I should get my master's and do my thesis on that kind of thesis statement, Toker. Believe me, Toker, it annoys me that I'm not allowed to know, even though I just made the statements, because once you have access to it, it's a sort of power, and you start to thirst for it. No, well, it's according to which form. Are you a right-leaning anarchist, or are you a left-leaning anarchist? Are you centrist now? Anarchist? Unfortunately, there's every shade.
Yeah. And you have to
But go ahead.
people that care about other people versus people that want to do harm to other people.
Right.
And I'm sure too, once you know certain things, if you have that clearance, then you yourself are subject to higher surveillance too,
Absolutely.
because they want to know that you're not letting out the secrets.
Oh dear Lord.
Damn.
Oh man. Well, that's why I was saying, if you're a left, central, or right anarchist,
Yeah.
just like every political ideology, it's varied in its delivery, right? So, I mean, you have the libertarian, annoying people, and then you have just libertarians that just want to live their lives.
Mhm.
It's one of the things he might have stumbled on. Greg Bishop, who wrote Project
If you think it, say it, bandit. Have courage of your convictions.
Beta, noted that these transmissions sounded like gibberish language that had been distorted and sped up. Or to a true believer like Paul, they
Dang, people get in the way every time, Toker.
sounded like alien speech. Edwards, chief of Kirtland-based security, had previously described Doty to a friend at the NSA as his drug man. And so that's less cool than it sounds, as Greg Bishop writes. The duty simply involved checking for allegations of illegal drug use on the base, but it was only one of Agent Doty's minor assignments. The FOC has jurisdiction over all criminal and security investigations at Air Force facilities. Most FOC agents must carry a high security clearance. Agents need to know what they are protecting so that security threats can be recognized quickly. Benowitz carefully described to Doty what he had seen and recorded, all while trying to keep what he really thought was going on to himself for the moment. And this is where I think Bishop is too credulous, because again, think back to Roswell. The first guy, like, they don't tell the people who are looking and responding to that crashed balloon that Project Mogul exists. It's very common for guys not to be in the loop about stuff, right?
Exactly.
Especially since he's just a sergeant, you know? Like, he's not a super high-level guy here. That said, Doty is kind of sent to talk to Benowitz, and he's like, hey, why don't you come to the base and we can talk about your research? And so Paul heads to the base and he shows Doty what he's got. And Doty is initially kind of, bored. And then he perks up when Paul starts to show him his radio array. He returns to the base to talk with some NSA colleagues about bringing an expert out to Paul's home to see what he'd built. So he visits Paul at his house, and this time with an actual scientist in tow, and another engineer, a guy named Lou Miles. And the fact that Paul has now been invited to the base to talk. He's had, a guy come over to his house from Air Force intelligence. Paul is takes this as evidence that I'm on the right track and the Air Force supports me. I'm now kind of helping the Air Force find evidence that there's aliens. I kind of got my X-Files job because they think I'm so cool and smart.
Oh, buddy.
I know.
No.
It's really sick because he's just trying to help,
Yeah, no, he is just trying to help.
He just wants to keep his country safe.
Oh, they're sizing you up, buddy, to see what kind of a threat you are.
Oh, no, my man. No, not at all. So
right.
The expert Doty brings to Paul's home is Lou Miles. Like Valdez, that state trooper, Miles was a guy who wanted to believe. He had been involved to an extent with Project Blue Book, which was a multi-year Air Force investigation into UFOs. It's one of the big seminal moments in early UFO history, right?
Yeah.
He was also now the chief scientist for Kirtland's test center. So he knew the reality behind a lot of the strange aerial phenomena that guys like Paul credited to aliens. So he's both open to believing, but also oh, but I know what you're actually seeing, and it's not aliens. It's this thing that we're working on. Nevertheless, he was good at talking to Benowitz, while Doty hung back and took photos with a hidden camera for the NSA.
Dirty, dirty, dirty deeds. I mean, you're gassing this guy up, and you're meanwhile gathering information for the NSA, which I don't know if can't remember if they fall under the same charter that or were supposed to fall under the same charter as the CIA and not operate within the United States. It's been a minute.
Who is also involved in this? It's kind of murky exactly where AFOC begins and the NSA ends. And there's some evidence the CIA is also gets involved. There's a lot of people are kind of interested in what Paul is doing. But no one's interested in Paul's evidence of alien interference. They're, again, worried about, interested as to whether or not he's actually, gotten any encrypted shit. And they also think he might be useful because being an actually brilliant engineer working in the aerospace industry and someone who goes to these UFO conventions, he's kind of trusted within the UFO community. So if they want to get a lot of people to pay attention to something other than the real shady shit they're doing at Kirtland, he might be able to convince them, right? He might be able to distract attention away from the real shit that's being done that they want to hide. For the next year, Paul waits for updates from the military, and he continues his special interest exploring extraterrestrial phenomena. In May of the next year, 1980, a 26-year-old woman named Myrna Hansen called the state police to claim that she and her 6-year-old had been accosted by alien visitors near Eagle Nest, New Mexico. The state troopers basically shrugged and handed the case over to the only cop they knew who dealt with this sort of shit, Gabe Valdez. If I'm remembering correctly, I believe Valdez's attitude is that Myrna was probably a plant. That's not clear to me. Again, a lot of...
What? An op? No. The government would never do that. So you do one plant, and then all of these other people start, that's when the... when you get all the abduction stories starting after this point.
Sketchy shit's going on here.
Immediately doesn't trust the woman. Okay,
yeah.
kid.
Well, but also this kind of shit was going on, so I don't know.
No, it also he's like, oh, man, this 6-year-old fucking with me.
Right. So Gabe calls our boy Paul, and
But Paul thought he was a researcher on on the base, the one guy, and then Doty had befriended him, and he was just an Air Force guy, so he didn't know that he was doing work for the Air Force on behalf of the NSA. So this guy is extremely patriotic. Remember, he's a World War II era guy. So he is like, anything I can do to help the government, I'm gonna do, right? And this is what they're doing to mess with him. They're coming into his home without a warrant. They're taking pictures, and the things they're about to do makes him lose his mind. A fake
We'll
story.
go off to meet Myrna. Now, by the start of the 80s, the science of hypnotic regression, which is not really a science, had taken off among people who believed or wanted to believe that they had been abducted by aliens, right?
Do you know who I am, Bandit? Or what I've done? No, you don't. This has such rings of things that our government does on a daily basis, daily, hourly.
So let me turn you into a chicken first, and then tell me if you saw the aliens or not. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going to hypnotize you and then walk you, like, say a bunch of leading things that get you to tell a fun alien story, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of this stuff is some similar shit's happening with like the satanic panic. We're just into the idea. I mean, there's a lot of this in the X-Files, right? This idea that people have memories locked away, that this psychologist or psychiatrist who definitely doesn't ever wind up fucking his patients can unlock.
Yeah.
It's
People aren't
super
like
cool.
People aren't susceptible to being influenced to say things to please somebody either.
Yes,
That's
nothing
for sure not a
sketchy here
problem.
whatsoever.
Definitely. not.
Gaslighting.
yeah.
Never heard.
Speaking of
anybody.
things that aren't sketchy, sponsors of this podcast. Never. They would never do anything illegal, although we did just find out that what's that food box company has child labor. So
which
I don't
one?
know.
I'd be curious.
I don't know. Sophie, which one was it?
I don't remember.
One of them. Anyway, here's
Okay.
that. We're back. Sponsors love that sort of thing.
Hey, that's their problem for going dynamic.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Gabe called our boy Paul, and off they went to meet Myrna. Benowitz, who is working for that civilian organization, not working for, but is like one of the head guys at APRO, that civilian looking into UFO things, and like is also working with this actual sheriff's deputy. Partners, he and Gabe partner with a University of Wyoming professor who's a quote unquote expert in hypnotic regression, and this guy's name is literally Dr. Leo Sprinkle.
Fuck yeah.
Great stuff.
Ooh, what
Great
a
stuff.
name.
Great stuff.
Man, good on you, Leo, for making it to adulthood.
That's a real boy named Sue situation.
Leonardo Sprinkle.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Leonardo Sprinkle. Yeah. Oh, fuck me. So in his
Sophie Lichterman. She's the producer / partner in Cool Zone Media. They have probably a dozen podcasts now.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know if you ever watch some more news.
no.
It could happen here, stuff like that.
Okay.
his
Boy.
book, Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks, Adam Gray summarizes. Benowitz, by this time, had convinced himself that the ETs were transmitting a mind control beam to repress Myrna Hansen's memories. Benowitz believed that the ETs were likely beaming him in an attempt to disrupt his ongoing UFO probe. To thwart this extraterrestrial electronic harassment, Benowitz arranged for Hansen's regression to take place in his 1979 Lincoln Town Car with multiple sheets of aluminum foil draped over the windows to deflect the dreaded alien beams. Benowitz connected connected these
beam.
perceived beams to cattle mutilation. It's so cool. I love this
I
shit.
love it.
He's fucking wrapping his car in tinfoil. No, he sees the aliens are blocking our memory with the beams.
Oh, he's married, right? Is he got a wife?
So the psychotherapist is the tinfoil guy, right? So he's the one telling them wrap your car in tinfoil, and this is where we will conduct our therapy sessions in your car wrapped in tinfoil.
Oh yeah, he's got a wife, and she is a long-suffering. I don't know much about her, but a saint. I'll say that much.
No, the
She's
power
putting
of
up with a lot.
I know the power of disassociation this woman is capable of. Man.
Oh yeah.
It's like, honey, I need the car to go to the grocery store. No, I have to go interview this woman. It's got the aluminum cake.
Where's your tinfoil?
Get the tinfoil out. Babe, we need it for the potatoes tonight. Absolutely not. I need it to protect us from aliens.
And again, he's been talking to Dodie for months at this point, and Dodie is kind of just like he's yes-anding everything Paul says, right? Like, oh yeah, that sounds real, Paul. Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, no, aluminum foil, great idea, man. Yeah, absolutely. So
is this where aluminum foil comes from? Is this like the origin of that, like this will block waves?
Part of it, yeah. I don't know that Paul is the only guy who starts it, but this is like, he is on the ground floor of the aluminum foil will stop the aliens from reading your mind thing. Yes, that's definitely fair to say. He's among because he's very influential in this culture too.
Yes. Yeah.
So we can see at this point, he's already kind of starting to go over the edge, right?
Yeah.
Paul begins writing analysis of Myrna's hypnotic regression sessions, replete with lines like, the alien does, all caps, kill with the beam generally. Generally, huh? Kill with the beam, huh?
Yeah. Where are those bodies? Where are those bodies, Polly boy?
Okay, Paul.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is that Hansen had just brought up a bunch of existent UFO lore during her sessions, right? She complained about missing time. She described being picked up in a tractor beam. She claimed an alien crewman had brandished a silver knife before cutting into a cow's chest. And she eventually described being taken to an underground base where a metallic device was put inside her brain. Now, this is part of why there's some theorizing that like maybe she was a plant. Is when, and Paul is the guy who really does more than anyone to start this. This is when you start getting these UFO conspiracies.
That was Mike D. Killamilla. He was making it rain last night. So
yeah, he was swinging around his big D in the gifted subs.
Yeah. So that was Mike D. Yeah. Keep them pipes backup free, buddy, and welcome, and thanks for commenting. You don't have to lurk, comment on. We're gonna get there, Toker. I can't remember if it was covered in the last episode, but we're gonna get there. We'll get to what that was about. We're about halfway through this, so I'll if it's not in this episode, I'll tell you what that was about actually.
About underground bases, and they're usually either like bases that our military shares with the aliens, or maybe the aliens run the base. There's some stories about them having fights with the army and whatnot, and these bases underground. But the real thing behind this is that a bunch of people in Albuquerque had watched, and like this is something that Paul would have seen from his house, as the Air Force dug this massive underground nuclear storage space, like the largest underground weapons storage base ever, or at least at that point in time. And so people are like wondering, like, what's this really for? And the answer is pretty evil. Like, it's for nukes, but
it's the hole full of nukes.
There's a lot of theories as to why. So Hansen also claimed per Benowitz.
What's up, Finkel? Yeah, I think we get into alien bases on this. It's interesting how the alien Dodie is responsible for the alien base stories as well.
That she had picked up an STD described as a vaginal disease like streptococcibacillus from the aliens. Paul wrote to his colleagues at the volunteer alien hunting group that, quote, "We are trying to culture it. No luck as yet. Also, it has evaded all of our known antibiotics with penicillin."
Damn, nobody's doing sex ed on these aliens. That's the problem.
No,
They gotta learn to wrap it up. Whatever
Also-
it is, you gotta wrap it up, though.
Paul, you are an electrical engineer. I don't think that you are
No, Peace, I didn't. There was one what, yesterday or day before, too. I mean, we are on the second largest fault line, so it doesn't surprise me. 4.1 though is pretty big for the ones we get. It might have been during my comatose time. Are you okay there, man, sir? I mean, that's a lot of.
Has he
fluff
chewed up
around.
any more cords?
No, just that one. I'm sure. We will have more. I gotta get some.
Won't be his last.
Yeah. So.
qualified to say that it's an it can't be like it's got to be an alien STD. Maybe it's a normal one. Maybe it's just a normal one.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not a doctor, Paul. You should. First off, you should give this lady antibiotics, Paul. You're again not a doctor.
You're really not.
Oh man.
So he also revealed that Myrna was being, quote, badly beaten on by the alien with their beams 24 hours a day. And once Myrna starts talking to him about how she's just constantly being beam attacked, Paul starts to believe that he too is being beaten on with beams. And he urges colleagues who plan to do regression work to lock themselves in a car in a garage coated with 3 layers of aluminum foil to protect themselves from the beams. He's doing well, is what you'd say at this point. He's doing great. Paul, our boy Paul, very, very healthy, making rational choices.
Oh, Paul, you've fallen.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. This is why her being a plant is perfect, because Dodie's bringing in him all these other people that are intel people to do exactly what they need, is to break his brain. Well, I mean, not a full-blown malinator. Some more like a Malin Pit
Husky.
Husk. Yes, Malin Pit Husk. Which
He has one husky eye.
Yeah, which is even somehow cooler to me.
Yeah.
And so far, you were doing so good, buddy.
Mm-hmm. So Dodie is occasionally checking in with Paul, but he's also spending the intervening months, 79, early 1980, working on another mark. And this guy is a journalist, or a quote unquote journalist, depending on how you see it, with a reputation for he is considered to be one of the more rigorous guys within the UFO community, by the UFO community. Take of that what you will. His name is George Moore. At least that's how he's described in Project Beta. But also the author of Project Beta really likes this guy and is impressed by him. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel the same way about Moore. Go Rightly's narrative makes him out to be more of one of an interchangeable number of UFO kind of weirdos, although one who is, reached out to by the government to spread disinfo. And Moore claims that he's down with this, right? And the reason we're talking about him is that he is the co-author of that book, that first big book that gets UFOs back in vogue, right? He's interviewing that guy from Roswell. He's one of the guys who helps make Roswell into the thing that it is in
Yeah.
our culture, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
He's written a bunch of other stuff. You know, he's a very influential figure within this field. And that inspires Doty and a colleague to approach him. In July of 1980, Jim Lorenzen of Arrow receives a letter with no return address claiming to tell the story of an 18-year-old Civil Air Patrol member who had sighted a UFO and then been threatened by a man in black named Mr. Huck. The young man had reported this to a Mr. Doby at AFOSI, right? That's the Air Force. That's Doty's agency. So
Okay.
Lorenzen gets this letter and he thinks it's weird, and he sends it to Bill Mitchell, who's the best journalist he knows, or Bill Moore, who's the best journalist he knows. And Moore is immediately like, oh, this is bullshit. And he knows it because he does some actual journalism. Like, he reaches out to the named witness, and the witness is like,
This is the most base level form of journalism that you could do to discredit a story.
well, yeah, I saw some like weird lights, but I was never threatened by a man in black. Like, none of the rest of this is real.
Man, the tiniest amount of journalism.
Yeah, it really, that's all it takes in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Let me just double check this.
Let me
Oh,
literally
okay.
just ask this guy if this happened. The letter was actually the creation of Doty and his colleagues at AFOSI.
Mm.
They were hoping to rope in somebody like Bill, right? Somebody smart enough to have credibility in the subculture, but also who might fall for a fake, right? They
Mhm.
didn't succeed in tricking him, but they continued fishing. In September of 1980, Moore finished a blockbuster book, The Roswell Incident, that's one of the things that
Yes, that's one
reignites
of the-
public interest. Yeah.
Mhm.
So military intelligence gets very interested after this point. And while he's doing his book tour, he keeps getting calls at radio stations where like guys will be like, hey, do you want to have a meeting? You know, I'm from a government intel agency and I'd like to talk. And he eventually agrees, and he's met by a man who dresses and acts very much like a spy in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, my opinion on what's happening here is that there's some two-way feedback. Moore desperately wants to be a journalist working on classified fringe, like X-Files kind of stories, right?
Mhm.
And he wants to feel like he's part of this great game of spies and spooks. Now, the spooks he's talking to, these are real spies, but they're not high-level operators working to unearth, you know, Russian nuclear secrets or doing the fucking cool shit that they make movies about. There are some enlisted guys at the Air Force, mostly, tasked with lying to rubes to cover up flight testing, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, this is like a two-way street because they also want to feel like they're doing cool spy shit, right?
Yeah.
And so Doty and George Moore, part of what they're both doing, because they're both much more rational than Paul is at this point, they're kind of LARPing together, in my opinion. You know,
Mhm.
they're kind of like, well, Doty, I get to play like I'm this very serious man in black, and Moore's like, and I get to play like I'm fucking Fox Mulder almost, right? You know, the show's not on the air at this point, but that's what they're both getting here, right? And Moore is offered a deal by Doty and a colleague. Help us out with some odd jobs, right? We need some like deniable work that you can do, and we'll pass you some classified UFO information, right?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
That's how that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the first dossier that Doty
It's space lasers.
Jewish space lasers.
and his friend hand over,
Yes.
Yeah.
No, they just wanted to date Scully.
Mhm.
Oh, it's wonderful, Killa. He is he's a good boy. He rode very, very well for a 10-hour drive.
That's good.
Yeah, and he was trying to get in the truck today when I went out to get my phone. I was like, no, buddy, we're staying out of this thing as much as possible for a while.
Yeah. He's so fucking cute.
Yeah. Him and the cats have this, they're getting better, so
Yeah.
is bullshit. Like, George, again, does some minor reporting to figure this out. From Bishop's book, quote, after a few preliminaries, the question started. Well, what did you discover? Moore threw the paper down on the table and, trying to sound less annoyed than he actually was, replied, "This whole mess is a lie. None of these people exist." The agent and Doty looked at each other and smiled. "What's going on?" asked Moore. "You passed the test," said the man, whom he would eventually refer to with the code name Falcon.
And the Winter Soldier. So, see, anything that it was just a test. We were just testing you. So we leaked this information about the kid who was threatened by Men in Black, but we were just testing you to see if you would fall for it. I love the government.
Yeah.
Within a few years, Moore and his colleagues would begin to assign code names to their growing coterie of contacts so they could talk freely about developments without fear of identification if they were overheard. And, maybe this was a test. I think it's likelier that they were like, okay, so we figured out this is bullshit. Let's just tell him that was a test and then, stroke his ego and he'll believe the next thing we say, maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to keep refining from our side until we actually make him a believer, and he'll feel great because he's passed all these tests. So he's going to start looking less and less because of how smart he believes he is too. Yeah, right. And they hand him some shit, and he'll admit, like, I knew some of what I was putting out into the UFO community was bunk, but I think some of it's real too. And like he's being a shady character here as well. Yeah. Now, unlike Paul Benowitz, George is a mentally resilient guy. Like, he definitely is a believer to some extent, but I think I don't think he takes it as seriously as Paul does, right? I don't think this is breaking his brain. I think he's having a good time, right? Yeah. My favorite story from Moore is that Doty and his partner apparently thought Moore might be gay and decided to test him by, like, one day when they're hanging out, they like park the car, and Moore is like, and a bunch of men start walking past the car wearing tight pants or high heels and dresses that like fit really weird, and like it doesn't seem like they would like are comfortable in. And apparently this is a test because they want him to troll the gay bars of Santa Monica looking for a guy that the AFOC wants for some reason. Oh my God.
I don't know.
It was a slow day in the office when they came up with that one. They were just like, well, we got to do something this weekend, right? All right.
So Doty and his colleagues, they get some of what they want out of Moore, right? He launders some info into the UFO community, some of the disinfo they want to distract from their real programs. But he's also not, he's a little too smart, right? He's not willing to destroy himself publicly as much as was necessary for the kind of misinformation that they wanted to get out. And this is where Paul Benowitz re-enters the story. It is obvious by 81 that this is a guy who is not well, but also he's respected, and he is a guy who, because of his tech acumen, might endanger some top secret operation.
Let's see. Unnamed alphabets are weird enough to deal with in normal life, even on a day-to-day based things. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. And when you had to deal with 17 of them at some point, it was a pain in the butt constantly. He has 2 left, and he's keeping those 2. Who works together?
Bandit, try making more sense when you talk.
Yeah. Speak in complete sentences.
So
I like spaghetti
the
too.
decision was basically made, hey, let's fuck them up a little, right? Paul gets invited to give a speech at Kirtland, and most of the attendees leave before he's done. But like, one of them is like, oh, this is really interesting stuff, Paul. And that just lights his ego on fire. Paul, so happy to hear this. He applies for Air Force grants, which he does not receive, but he apparently gets an NSA grant. And I think that's maybe the NSA fucking with him, because some real fuckery is about to happen here.
Hey, I love an ironic grant. Ironic grant money still spends.
Yeah, but the things that they're gonna do to him through that grant is
I
really,
haven't yet,
really
but it looks like something I might pick up in the future. It looks
It's a little more messed up than even
interesting.
that.
Yeah.
So Doty is now spending hours with Paul Benowitz, and he claims that they became friends and that he found the orders he received to spread lies to Paul personally distasteful.
Yeah.
If you watch the documentary Mirage Man, you'll see a lot of Doty, and he does express a degree of.
I included the link to Mirage Man. They can control me harder, yes. Maybe 10 figures worth. But I included Mirage Man in the links earlier, so that he's talking about. It is good, Ned. Good, Ned. I've seen it. Good, Ned.
What kind of feels like real regret over what he did to Paul. He is also a spy and a professional liar. So I don't know that I believe he's really, or he just knows that he needs to perform regret, right? I think that's probably likelier. Yeah. So,
oh God, what do you think? Like the internal notes of a person that constantly lies are like? Is it just like a notebook? Is it like a series of post-its around their house? How do you keep that shit straight? It sounds exhausting.
I don't, one of the things that you get when you like read these stories and like the way in which a lot of the writers and quote unquote journalists who cover this stuff, the degree of credulity they have to these guys' stories, the thing that becomes clear to me is like, oh, this is your first time being lied to by a weirdo in the desert. Like I spent a lot of my childhood and like, or not childhood, my young adulthood in like off-grid places, just listening to like lies from dudes at bars and stuff. I've heard a lot of crazy stories that definitely aren't true, and that's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
But I think some of these people just like decide they want to live as if that's real.
That's fair.
Yeah.
God, how many timeshares do you think they own? It feels like
oh my God, these guys are very, very vulnerable to timeshares.
Keep the industry alive.
So on some of his early visits to hang with Paul, he's shown a complex computer system, Doty is, that Benowitz had constructed and had his employees help him build to translate these encrypted messages, right? And it's unclear what's actually happening. Is he just getting random static and then like running it through an algorithm to like create text based on that, and then kind of going through it almost like it's one of those like word puzzles and just like picking up words out of a feed of words that like, and then saying like, oh, this is, a message from the aliens, right? Because some people will say like, it looked like gibberish to me, but he would pull out, 5 or 6 words from this like paragraph of nonsense and say like, this is the real message, right?
Yeah.
And this is a quote from Doty. Benowitz had the computer rigged up to antennas on his roof that included a small microwave dish, and he would look at the screen and there would be images on the screen that certainly wasn't an alien, but he was convinced that it was. I would actually tell him, I don't see anything. And he said, I see it and I can hear them. And he had these earphones that he would put on, and he said, I can hear them talking. And I asked Paul, what language are they speaking? He said, they're speaking their language. And he wrote a 100-page document about the alien language. When he went out to Kirtland to give his presentation to all these generals, he presented them with that information. So the NSA, and this is probably where the NSA gets heavily involved and maybe why they give him that grant, because a plan gets hatched to gift Paul with a new computer, right? That he's told is a gift from AFOC. Some accounts, maybe Doty offered him the machine. The story you'll hear more often is that an Air Force consultant named Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who's a former scientific advisor for Project Blue Book and a big guy in the alien community now. I think he denies this, but you'll hear that too. We don't really know exactly what happened here because I've also heard like the NSA did it. I've heard that the Air Force did it. I don't know. Adam Go Rightly notes, this computer had been provided at the behest of the U.S. Air Force, and embedded in the software was a code that generated an alien language. With the aid of the Air Force computer, Benowitz claimed he established constant direct communications with the alien using a form of hexadecimal code with graphics and printout. Now,
oh man.
So what's happening here probably is that because some versions of the story say that the NSA was literally set up across the street in a rented house, sending messages directly to Paul's computer. It was maybe a little less direct than that, but basically he's got this machine that's probably programmed to allow them to send him fake messages from aliens. So he starts getting messages like this. Ground, women of Earth are needed, flexible, the next discharges, our ship, women do not command the North among us, you have many friends, water, very short, resist all attempts at alteration, listen, orange, make peace. And Paul doesn't know.
That's so evil what they did to him. I mean, they knew he was a true believer, and then they give him this computer system that they're just feeding this stuff through to make it seem like he is talking to aliens or receiving transmissions, rather.
Yeah. Just feeding the delusions.
I mean, women needed. It just makes me think of Mars Needs Women. Some Rob Zombie going on.
What to make of this? He becomes convinced actually that this is the aliens trying to trick him into thinking that they're peaceful, but he knows they're really dangerous.
He's so close. He's getting there.
Yeah, he's getting there. Yeah. Greg Valdez, who's Gabe's son, visited Benowitz during this period, and he described seeing the computer in use. He would type a question into the computer in a very complex for the time period form of a computer program, much like a current email. Much to everyone's surprise, he would get an answer to the questions he was asking. Sometimes he would get an immediate response, and sometimes it would take several minutes. He would even receive very crude and basic pictures or graphics on his computer of these aliens. Some of these pictures resembled birds with reptile features, and some resembled reptiles with bird features. During this question and answer session, Gabe instructed Paul to ask the simple question, "Where are you from?" Paul already knew the answer to the question because he had already asked the question, and he answered it verbally when a response came back on the computer. It simply said the Zeta Reticuli star system. So they're now really fucking with this guy in a way that's very irresponsible.
I mean, I want to know who's writing this stuff, because that's the best job on the base. That's
right. Maybe Doty. It's probably a team of guys, right? Because Doty, there's some evidence he was working with the NSA. So maybe it's multiple. It's almost certainly multiple people feeding him bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the result is that Paul grows convinced that the U.S. government has signed a treaty with aliens, perhaps to breed some sort of hybrids, and they've been given real estate in an underground base near Dulce, New Mexico. This played the happy dual role of covering up ongoing weird experiments around Dulce. There's that poison gas fucking hole.
You're right, Killa.
And diverting the attention of Paul and others away from Kirtland Air Force Base and towards somewhere less harmful, right? For their ends,
Yeah. Definitely.
Now, during his communications with the ETs, Paul became convinced that there was a secret war going on. Dozens of base security in Dulce had been murdered by the aliens in a gunfight. He wrote up plans to lay siege to Dulce base and
this sound familiar? This is 80s, and we've heard the same stories, right? Coming out of certain alphabet, single letter alphabet conspiracies.
Yep. The Y-Files is great, Killa. The talking fish gets a little bit annoying at times, though.
Everyone says Zeta Reticuli. I mean, you got to make it as easy as possible, right? Because
make it
light
believable.
speed is hard enough, but I've looked at it a lot, and this is all like intermeshed around the same time. Whether Lazar's an op or just a crazy person has yet to be seen. Booty.
began working to develop a sort of beam weapon that could kill aliens. Now,
Oh, Paul. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, now we're making beam weapons, huh, buddy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I better hope the aliens
Mhm.
don't have aluminum foil.
Listen, folks, if you have a friend who's making beam weapons to fight the underground aliens, I actually don't know how you should handle that situation, but probably don't give him a computer that lies to him.
I think you got to sign him up for bowling league or something. I think
Get
you
him
gotta,
bowling,
yeah. Let's
Get
get,
him out
some
of his
more
mom's
social.
basement.
take him out
yeah.
camping,
activities.
maybe.
Wife's
Fill out
Yeah,
that social schedule a little.
Yeah, getting him out of the wife's basement is probably the. But this guy's a millionaire, so you know it's a little different. An echo chamber? I don't know. I can't hear for the echoes.
Little bit
you
more.
know what? See if he wants to play D&D. Maybe his imagination needs a little bit of a workout. You know,
that might be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if a lot of this sounds like the overarching conspiracy plot for the first 5 seasons of the X-Files, that's because this is almost certainly the direct inspiration for a lot of the X-Files, right? Like this is in fact, because this is all happening in the 80s, not long before the X-Files starts, right?
Yeah.
So Benowitz, as he's communicating with these aliens, he's gathering information on this secret underground base and this war he believes is going on underneath everyone's noses. He's sending back everything he's getting to Special Agent Doty, his good friend. And Doty dutifully forwards this up the chain and encourages Paul, keep digging, you're getting close.
Think about this. This is a guy he considers his good friend. And he's doing this to him. Just
Brainwashing and gaslighting his good friend.
He's doing the deep throat thing, right? He's like,
whoa.
keep digging, Agent Mulder, Yeah.
yeah. You're so close. You're going to get there.
Yeah. He's telling him that the aliens at Dulce Base had been responsible for what he'd seen over Kirtland. And he does this because he's like, oh, yeah, man, you know what? I ran it up the flagpole and that underground base, that's why you were seeing those weird lights. Don't look near the Air Force Base. Keep hanging out around Dulce, that's where the shit's going on, right?
Yeah.
Go Rightly claims the ultimate intent of stringing Benowitz along, according to researchers like Greg Bishop and Christian Lambright, was to shift Benowitz's attention away from Kirtland to a remote area like.
There's things in things, but Paul Benowitz was just a successful business owner. He was making millions of dollars on Air Force contracts, and then he started seeing strange things and put up this antenna array to see if he could figure out what was going on. And they assigned this Air Force special investigations guy to mess with his brain. Just waiting for the xenomorphs to arrive. Yeah, I mean, that'll make life interesting.
Yeah. Embrace the face huggers.
Yeah.
The Archuleta Mesa near Dulce, where AFOSI could ramp up their disinformation operation and more easily stage UFO events. Speaking of staged, you know what's not staged? Is the liability of our sponsors. That's completely legitimate, don't even question it. Don't think about it. Hand over your credit card information. Text it to me. I'll buy stuff for you. And we're back. Okay, so near the end of 1981, Richard Doty convinces his superiors to let him take Paul on a special helicopter flight around the Archuleta Mesa. Since Paul is a pilot, and they see some stuff, there's some, and apparently Doty claims that he and other agents put out props.
Wait a minute. Bill Pirate Studio sounds like they were never friends in the first place. We all know the a-holes in high school that would act like sometimes friends just fuck with them. funny. Hill Pirate Studios is the same as it was when it was founded. Let's see.
He's just replying, I think, to Jeff.
Oh.
Jeff said, "What did the friend do to deserve this?"
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Killa. It was just a strange read. I didn't see a comma.
Missing context.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's no different, right?
Right, to look like air vents for the secret underground base and other evidence, right?
This is so crazy. And now there's an art director involved.
Yeah,
at this
yeah, there's an
point.
art
It's become a
director. They're really
full production. There's production meetings about
Yeah.
like what to do to this poor man. Like,
yeah, they're having pitches and stuff. They've got like pitch meetings on fucking with this guy. There's a prop team now.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So because Paul's a pilot, after this first trip, he follows this by doing his own recon flights over the area, and he gets very obsessed with this. And I have some questions. I don't know if I believe Doty entirely that like he's being handed all of the men and equipment necessary to carry out a staged operation on the scale he describes. But also it's possible, and in fact, maybe likely, Paul is sometimes seeing some real stuff. Like he reports seeing what he describes as a crashed Delta Wing aircraft. And in this area at this time, they're working on prototypes of the stealth bomber, which looks like that. And in fact, Greg Bishop's Project Beta, like that's his basic conclusion, is that like Paul might have seen like some of the testing stages of the prototype of like the stealth bomber, right? And maybe that was like part of what Doty was doing, is if we get this guy to talk about, if we let this guy see a little bit of the real stealth bomber program, but convince him it's aliens, then anybody who's talking about like a Delta Wing aircraft, right, will be like, oh, you're just talking about a UFO, not this actual thing that we're working on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's get everybody off the scent once again.
So maybe that's what's happening, or maybe it was just an easy thing to make look like a plane from the air. Shit like this, they do this in World War II a bunch. We do it, and actually the Nazis do it too, where you'll like make basically fake out of like wood and shit and spray paint tanks and stuff, so people think there's an army where it isn't, right? So it's not. Where
I'm from in Maryland, there's a fake cop car on like one of the highways that is up just to slow you down.
Love that.
Old Blood and Guts, Patton, and there was several military campaigns that they had like blow up tanks, and they just blow them up on the battlefield. You know, they're just nothing but like beach balls, but in the shape of a tank to throw the Germans off. It was quite funny. So them doing something like this out in Archuleta would be relatively easy.
Yeah.
Shit. Now there are other claims about what happened to Paul and his wife during this period that are more questionable. One write-up I found by the Cyberthetic Project claims that Paul and his wife developed red sores or perhaps some sort of rashes on their body. I've seen that a few times. The Cyberthetic Project describes itself as a token project with a mission to unite holders so that they can communicate in an open forum on the blockchain without fear of being judged or censored. So you'd be right about questioning it as a source. That said, this is all a lot of fun, so I'm going to quote from it anyway. Just, a lot of salt here.
Yeah.
It has since been revealed that the NSA was in possession of sensitive documents concerning advanced technologies such as active denial systems and active denial technology. These technologies were apparently being developed by Sandia Labs and Kirtland Air Force Base with the aim of producing a non-lethal weapon that could be used against enemies. Were they using this technology on the Benowitz family? The answer to that is also unclear. What is clear is that Paul and his wife were being physically impacted by his research into UFOs. And that's maybe not, I think probably likelier than some sort of weird beam weapon is that Paul is losing his mind, and he and his wife are both very stressed out by this and convinced that they're being targeted by aliens. And they have like shingles, a stress rash, something like all sorts of shit, you know?
No, yeah, it feels like they
Yeah.
probably would have like broken out in some sort of like stress
Right,
rash of some kind.
right.
Like, yes, that's fair. I have several friends from the California fires that had them a week ago. Like,
right.
yeah, imagine prolonged experience to potential aliens for years. Yeah, you have rashes too.
Right. I don't think that's it. It's at all unlikely that something like that is the case here.
Yeah.
Wow, about 8 more minutes, Killer. It's boring you. That's pretty scary, Jeff. Glad that everybody all the pups though decided to listen.
Yeah. Good training.
Live Boston Wicked investigating.
So as he grew more obsessed with seeking out the truth, Paul's business declined, which is another reason why maybe he's dealing with some stress related problems. In
God, his poor
1970
office manager was just
oh
like,
my God.
I just need you to sign off on this.
Paul, we
We're
just really need to make this censor, man. Could we? Okay, you've got the whole team working on translating alien speech. All right, well, I'm going to maybe print out some resumes.
Yeah, exactly.
In 1978, Thunder Scientific had 30 employees. By 1981, that the number was down by almost half. He starts hiding like guns and knives around his home as the 1980s wore on because he's just incredibly paranoid now. And he continues to attend UFO events throughout the mid to late 1980s. His yarn about Dulce Base, which was almost certainly invented or at least heavily egged on by Richard Doty, had been a magnificent success.
Mm-hmm.
In 1987,
I mean, people still buy this stuff. It's absolutely crazy how much we know about how much of it was faked, and they still buy it. And he's some kind of folk hero in the UFO community.
Yep.
Lear, a prominent ufologist, stated that he had independently confirmed elements of Benowitz's story, right? That there's this underground base at Dulce. Several books in the late 1980s published their own variants of the story, which helped to spark a paranoid belief in secret underground alien bases that is still a significant part of QAnon today. Like a lot of QAnon guys believe that there's a base under the Getty in Los Angeles.
That's why it didn't burn.
That's why it didn't burn. They kept it safe. That's where they keep the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the center. Either way, do a pizza.
He was the scientist was diagnosing a woman with one while he was doing his exams in a car with triple wrapped aluminum foil all over the windows. So
Bandit, Shiz isn't here. If you're so concerned about Shiz, go talk in her chat.
I was just letting him wear himself out like a toddler so he can go take a nap. I mean, I'm surprised he has this assignment from Coded to try to cause trouble. So, I get it. I get it now, Killa.
He wasn't telling us to wrap up.
Yeah. I thought he was telling them to wrap the story up, but at first,
To get it.
Sometimes I'm too literal.
Both places, Sophie. You know what?
That's okay.
No, that didn't end well for that guy. There's a lot that's sad about this, but one of the worst things is that Paul had almost certainly stumbled upon a very real and very important conspiracy at Kirtland. See, today, Kirtland Air Force Base is a major testing site for advanced drone technology, including weapon systems to defeat drone swarms and other experimental tech. We know that in 1980, a black mystery vehicle was spotted at the base. This is right around the same time Paul is making his initial reports. So he's going to show you a picture of this mystery vehicle that is being tested at Kirtland Air Force Base when Paul is observing shit, right? It looks kind of like an SR-71, but it's like a drone version almost. This was apparently now we know this was called at the time a TDUX tow target. A write-up in the War Zone describes it as a high-speed towed aerial target to support the testing of infrared and electronic countermeasures, or IRCM and ECM respectively. Something like this would both look very weird in the sky and also might put off some of the signals that Paul was, receiving, right?
Yeah, because he's trying to act.
Now, I don't know if this is what he saw or was other
electronic countermeasures and stuff, so...
because other shit is being tested at Kirtland, including precursors to our modern drone program, right? Paul very likely came across evidence of the development of unmanned weapon systems that have gone on to kill huge numbers of people. No aliens need to be involved at all for this to both make sense and be a real conspiracy theory. Also, very likely Doty wasn't fully in the loop as to what was being developed there because he wouldn't need to be. And in fact, the more he believed the bullshit he was pushing on Paul, the safer the real secrets were. In 1988, yep, cool stuff. The drone program, it always comes back to that.
Yes, indeed. But I mean, it is absolutely correct. I mean, the predecessor to the modern drone program, we can go all the way directly back to World War II, where we were using them as with like still, not really still cameras on them, but they would run on a machine on a timer to start taking pictures,
snapshots.
When it'd get over, and then they'd land, and they would have to retrieve the film and do all the processing for that. So, and then we'd get near real time, and now it's you can never call it exactly real time, but it's, I mean, milliseconds.
The little dog robot that did flips in the toy store? Is that what you're talking about?
or the one that was supposed to be a pet, but it was just terrible. And then they had the dinosaur one.
Oh yeah.
Hooray! So exciting. But they make...
So we tie it up in a little bow, and we get to my career, right?
Pretty firework alternatives. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Don't worry. They can form Steve Harvey in the sky.
Yeah, they can make Steve. It's fine.
They should have done that. That's what if the aliens love Steve Harvey? Oh my God!
Paul Benowitz went to the Air Force. I keep seeing Steve Harvey's face in the night sky. I don't know what's going on. In 1988, Paul published plans for an assault on Dulce Base, which he'd become convinced was the nexus of an alien plan to control the world. That same year, he became convinced that his wife was working with the aliens, or perhaps in control of the entire alien conspiracy. Go rightly,
poor wife.
Yeah, she's really going through it here. And in this passage from Go Rightly's book, which is based on interviews with Bill Moore and Richard Doty, he describes a profoundly ill man. Both Bill Moore and Richard Doty on separate occasions witnessed firsthand Benowitz's mounting paranoia, describing him as spun out and barricaded inside his home, chain-smoking cigarettes, waiting in fevered anticipation for the final ET showdown. In Project Beta, Greg Bishop recounted, Benowitz told Moore that after the aliens injected him, they would make him drive his car into the desert in the middle of the night, but he couldn't remember what he did after he got there. Around this time, Benowitz's family committed him to a mental health facility for nervous exhaustion.
Oh man.
And you will sometimes hear it errantly stated that he commits suicide as a result of this. He does not. This thankfully doesn't have as sad a story as it might. Paul gets out after about a month, and he seems to have pulled himself out of the UFO community after this point. He and his wife stay together. They're married more than 50 years, and he lives until 2003. So, kind of a happy ending, but boy, it almost wasn't.
Yeah, for real,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the place he was committed. Apparently,
apparently they did the job. Yeah,
that's some serious deprogramming.
Paul, man, you got to stop. You got to stop using the computer the NSA gave you.
Yeah, we computer bad, man.
Yeah.
Some poor doctor just cracked all of their knuckles and said, "All right, let's get into it."
Paul, we need to have a long conversation about things that are real and things that aren't. So Richard Doty,
Bandit, you are a coded sycophant. That tells me all that I need to know about anything that you know. So
You can't even form coherent sentences, Bandit.
you can't even spell words right that you think.
he would eventually retire from the Air Force and spend much of his retirement and golden years doing the UFO convention circuit. He will say that he was hired to consult on 2 seasons of the X-Files and that he wrote the screenplay for an episode. He's not credited as the writer for that episode. But his stuff definitely helps inspire the X-Files, right?
Yeah.
Like he is for sure involved in what becomes the X-Files purely because of like his role in UFO culture.
I'm sure he wrote a script, but
I'm sure he wrote a script. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have written scripts.
And he's a member of a couple of different organizations now. He's a very controversial figure within the UFO community because he both definitely worked for Air Force intelligence and tells a lot of stories about seeing aliens. He claims to have literally seen them, and also admits that he lied about aliens for years to a guy who nearly lost his mind forever. I wouldn't trust him. But for an idea of how Richard Doty presents himself now, here's a clip from him on the New Realities YouTube channel being interviewed by a UFOlogy author named Alan Steinfeld.
I mean, you're no longer working for the Air Force intelligence, right? But
that's right. I don't work for Air Force intelligence. Intelligence.
Well, don't be offended by this question, but how do we know you're still not working for them and you're just saying you're not working for them?
Well, there's a lot of controversy over that, but number one, I wouldn't have any reason to. I left the agency, left the intelligence agency back in 1988. Although people bring up the fact that I was brought back to active service in 91 and 93, but that had nothing to do with UFOs or disinformation. It had to do with what I did in Europe after the wall fell. So I work as a private investigator. I have no official connections with the United States government or intelligence community. I do have a lot of friends that still work within the intelligence community, and they feed me a lot of information that I share with you. I mean, I shared it with you at the UFO MegaCon.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's still, and I even found an interview where he's like talked about, like he's asked about like, because Tom DeLonge of Blink-182 is a big guy and is involved with Doty in one of the organizations he's in. And one of the interviews is like, are you doing a Paul Benowitz to Tom DeLonge? He's like, of course not. I would never.
I absolutely would never do that.
I think he might be doing a Paul Benowitz on a couple of guys. Maybe that's just fun for him. Yeah.
It reminds me of what's the in the Tanya Harding in the Assault of Nancy Kerrigan. Tanya Harding.
Oh yeah.
Galooly and his idiot friend. The amount of
Joey
bullshit
Buttafuoco?
that they just
Yeah.
believe
No,
about themselves
was
and
it?
talk
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Like the other
Yeah,
guy,
I
Eckert,
guess
he
so.
like talked about how he like was a special forces guy and had all this shit
I've
made up. And you're
heard-
like, damn, you believe this though?
I've heard
Like-
so many fun lies about being special forces from dudes, like
Oh, yeah.
especially out in like the mountains. Like every old man you meet who like will tell you about all of the crazy shit he did in Vietnam, and it's just always nonsense. Like
Yeah.
I know a guy who's out where in the little mountain town where I used to live who was a SEAL team member during Vietnam. And his reaction was very different, which was like he handed me a book that was written about like him and his colleagues and was like, you want to know anything, just read that. I don't like talking about it.
Yeah. If you've actually done any of this stuff, you're like,
Yeah.
it's not the movies,
It
buddy.
was kind of
He wanted me to hold hands with him and skate, Jeff. He's
a bad time.
yeah. I have a lot to
Yeah.
answer for and process.
Didn't like it. Not happy with how that all went.
No, not worth the free beer to talk about
Uh-huh.
it jovially. No.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's the aliens, or not. But maybe there's aliens. I don't know. This is not conclusive on that matter, one way or the other. But there's definitely a bunch of spy agencies who will lie to you and destroy your brain if they think it will help them hide a fact that they're making some fucked up shit to kill people in other countries.
Of course. Maybe the alien was inside of you, listener, the
Yeah.
entire time.
nope. Go back. As he has a knife missile on his screen, it's his favorite thing to discuss that comes from scary weapons. So very it's a very cool thing to use. Very accurate. You know, a lot of special force guys. What do they use force on? I kid.
Of course. Maybe the alien was inside of you, listener, the
Yeah.
entire time.
The real alien was always the military-industrial complex.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Because,
Yes.
define what an alien is. It's something that works against like the good of
Mhm.
humanity. Then in that case, the government is run by aliens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's out there or in here, apparently. Oh,
Yep.
God.
But what is out there and what is in here are your pluggables, Brandy.
So if Toker is still in here, and for anybody who was interested, the cattle mutilations was a program because of Operation Plowshare, where we used a nuclear weapon to drop down into a underground aquifer and some oil reserves. We dropped some nukes down there, so they were actually just coming in at night, cutting out the strangely enough, the tongues and the anuses of the cattle, and taking out glands to test for cancer, because you can detect cancers in the cows quicker. Simple explanation of the things we were doing to our own selves in manhole lid. Fastest moving thing known to man, baby. We should do that more, actually. You need to give them the formula for that one, Jeff. Putting manholes in the space is really cool. He traded one addiction for another and claims he's not an addict. That's real safe and based in reality. That's true.
Yeah.
You can't say you were an addict because addicts are always addicts. It's not a cure. No teams, Bandit. No teams.
Yeah, there's no sides. Like,
Yeah. It's just
nobody has to choose to pick a side, you know.
So the next one of these I do is probably either going to be Pol Pot or Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. What do y'all think? One for Pol Pot, two for Ghislaine's dad. They'll both get done, but just whichever one you want done first. Need to figure out how to do the poll on these things. Pol
Oh,
Pot.
to add a poll. Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Pol Pot is it's a good one. It's a 3-parter, but it's
Yeah, I think Pol Pot would be interesting.
okay. All right, that's not a problem. We will
says the
do
same.
Ghislaine's dad, yeah.
No, says Pol Pot.
Yeah, yeah.
Too. Yeah.
So peace and yes, exactly. We're all clowns. This isn't a new concept, Bandit. It's not an insult.
Yeah.
When it's acknowledged. So
The whole place is a circus.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Bandit is a oh. Epstein's recruiter's dad.
Yeah.
Yes. But Pol Pot is a very interesting one. And the killing fields is always been an interesting subject to cover. And yeah, exactly, Mrs. Metcalf.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I will close this up. Jeff, are we doing anything tonight or yay, nay? What doxing, sir? What doxing? Go away. All right,
Yeah.
y'all. We'll close it out. I can't redirect to over there, but if I'm sure that's still going on, and then we'll decide what we're gonna do.
I
Y'all
can
have
drop the link in the chat for that for anybody that wants to go over there.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes.
All doxing all the time. WDXX Radio. Dox now. Okay.
Shiz is live for anybody interested. The link's in the chat.
Okay. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Night.